Well, I have to tell you, the writing is so clear on the wall. Last week, the federal government made a case in court against amnesty for a family that is here, that if they go back to Germany, they will lose their children because they want to homeschool. And the argument that this administration made was amnesty that's not a basic human right. It's not a basic human right to be able to teach your children what you believe to be true. And they made their case in front of this judge, and they said, "Look, Your Honor, we found things that were said about God in the textbooks that are absolutely the opposite of what we believe. And we don't want to teach our children. We don't want the state teaching our children the things that they teach about God in Germany." Okay? Apparently that's not a good enough reason. Coming to America to escape religious persecution is not enough. I will tell you, this is a very, very big flag. Because at the same time they're arguing that, they are also arguing that who are you to even look twice at an illegal immigrant, somebody who is here illegally. And at the same time they're arguing that this family doesn't have a right to raise and teach their children, that homeschooling is not a basic human right. They are also saying, the Department of Justice coming out and saying, amnesty is a basic human right. That was their argument this weekend, that it is a basic human right, amnesty. Except amnesty to escape religious persecution is not. Okay, I want you to keep that in mind about the family from Germany. And understand what they're doing. They are weakening your right to teach your children what you believe at home. Hear me carefully. They are weakening your right to teach what you believe to your children at home. Now, remember the Melissa Harris Perry. This audio of Melissa Harris Perry where she came out and she said that we have to get past this notion.
We have never invested as much in public education as we should have because we've always had kind of a private notion of children. Your kid is yours and totally your responsibility. We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Once it's everybody's responsibility and not just the households, then we start making better investments.
Stop. Is it really, isn't that great? Okay, so there we have it. Once the child does not belong to the parents, but to the community, then we'll make better choices. Once the child does not belong to the parent. Couple that together with what happened with the homeschooling, that you don't have a basic human right to be able to raise and teach your children in your home the way you deem fit. Now let me add this, and again, we have to give the tip of the hat to Drew Steele from 92.5 Fox News Radio for sending this audio into The Blaze. In a speech just given by Masha Gessen, she is an author and outspoken activist for the LGBT community. She says that many supporters of traditional marriage, what they have speculated for years, she says that it's true. The push for gay marriage has less to do with the right to marry. She says it's about diminishing and eventually destroying the institution of marriage and redefining the traditional family. Listen carefully.
I agree. It's a no-brainer that we should have the right to marry. But I also think equally that it's a no-brainer that the institution of marriage should not exist. So
Stop. Listen to this. Now, this is an activist crowd. Remember, what they're applauding, they didn't applaud the first thing, that we should all have the right to marry. That's what they say they are for. They say they are for everybody should have the right to marry, because who are you to judge love and everything else? Got it? So everyone should have the right to marry, and there's no applause. Play it again.
I agree. It's a no-brainer that we should have the right to marry.
No applause.
But I also think equally that it's a no-brainer that the institution of marriage should not exist. So that.
Okay, now stop. Stop. Now, this is really critically important. She gets into so much more. This is really critically important. Let that gel here in your head that you have already been lied to, and the crowd just confirmed it. Now, I am of the mind that if you want to get married, you can get married. If you want to get married by a tree, you can get married by a tree. I don't really care. I know where I get the value from my marriage, and I get it from my faith and from my God. It is a contract, a covenant between me and my spouse with God. That's what marriage is. Now, if you want to make it between you and a tree, you make it between you and a tree. The question we should be asking ourselves is, why is government defining marriage? Why is government even in the marriage business? It shouldn't be in the marriage business, because once it's in the marriage business, then it chooses. And once it chooses, well, now you've got something else going on. Now your church is not going to not be able to marry gay couples. The institution of marriage is absolutely under attack. And you have to have the right to marry and make a contract with God. And my faith has to have the ability to say, I'm sorry. If you want to get married, you can get married. Go to the Episcopal Church. You can go have the lesbian minister at the Episcopal Church marry, the gay couple, and that's totally fine. And I have nothing against the Episcopal Church. If that's what they want to do, that's what they can do. That's not what my church will do. But if that's what your church wants to do, go ahead. But that church should not dictate to my church, nor should I dictate to you. Because it is a right of conscience. My conscience dictates that I do these things. Once you say, my conscience does not matter, but the collective conscience does, then you're in trouble. It's why we have conscientious objectors. That's why my conscience says you cannot send me to war. My faith says, if I'm a Quaker, I'm not going to war. I am not going to do it. My faith dictates. It's not that I'm all of a sudden a Quaker. It's the way I have always been. My faith teaches that war is wrong. So we have said, if that's what your faith teaches and you are legitimately a member of your faith, we cannot force you to do that. But you will not have a conscientious objector status for churches. Once the state says this is the way it goes, that's the way it's going to go. Because remember, if you said you were a conscientious objector, which I have absolutely no problem with, if you say I cannot fight because my God says no, I have no problem with that. But remember, the reason why that one really, really holds is because that one has always undermined our security. It has always been a lefty idea. I should be able to get out of war if I want to. Okay, whatever. So they are now undermining and saying traditional marriage has to be stopped. And the crowd cheers. But she goes on.
That causes my brain some trouble. And part of it, why it causes me trouble, is because fighting for gay marriage generally involves lying about what we're going to do with marriage when we get there. Because we lie that the institution of marriage is not going to change. And that is a lie. The institution of marriage is going to change, and it should change. And again, I don't think it should exist. I don't like taking part in in creating fictions about my life. That's sort of not what I had in mind when I came out 30 years ago.
Okay, now see, and here's a person that I have no problem with. I have no problem with this woman.
She's honest.
She's honest. She is just saying what the truth is.
It's what we, have said is the agenda with the radical element of the gay community.
The left.
And she just admitted it.
Yeah.
She just spelled it out, and they probably hate that.
Yeah. Oh, of course they do.
There it is.
Of course they do.